The tragic real-life story of Edith Piaf. She began singing in the streets at age 14. By age 8, Edith Piaf went to live with her father. They traveled with a circus for a time, but soon her father, not one for commitments, quit and they traveled around the country. According to Provence Wine Zine, at age 14, in 1929, young Pioff began working with her father in his street performances. He did his death-defying contortions, and Pioff closed out with a song. Long before her father took her back, she began singing in the streets of Brno. Per no regrets, her mystique began when she sang on tables at the local Café de la Gare. One neighbor commented that her voice was already unique, magical. Pioff claimed her blindness played into her ability to sing, saying, "When I wanted to understand, to see a song, I would close my eyes." Over time, she developed her own repertoire of songs. At age 16 she began working without her father. Pioff worked with a younger acrobat, a girl known as Momone. They performed in the streets and army barracks. While making a life for herself, she met a young man named Louis Dupont and became pregnant. According to Provence Wine Zine, at 17, she gave birth to her only child Marcel, who died 2 years later to meningitis. Pioff left Dupont and continued to sing with Momone in the streets and at a seedy club called Lulu's. She was accused of murder. While singing near the Arc de Triomphe, a passerby heard Edith Piaf singing Comme un moineau, which translates to like a sparrow. The man's name was Louis Lepli, and he would be the one to give her stage name, La Môme Pioff, the little sparrow, Pioff being slang for sparrow. Lepli owned an upscale cabaret near the Champs-Élysées called Les Journeys. He paid her 40 francs a night and helped to shape her image. According to No Regrets, he would present her not as a glamorous chanteuse, but as herself. The contrast between her childlike mien and her assaultive vibrato would move audiences as it moved him. Within the year Pioff became a sensation, playing on the radio, seeing her name in the newspapers, acting in films, and recording an album. While in Cannes for a charity ball, Lepli was robbed and murdered in Paris. Despite being nowhere near the scene of the crime, she was arrested and questioned, but later released. According to the Travel Geek, the police thought that by working in the Les Journeys, Pioff brought the attention of her friends in the street mafia to the establishment. Pioff often dated and hung around with the milieu, the French mafia, something prostitutes and Pioff did for protection while working and living in the tougher parts of town. Although she was found innocent, it put a stain on her career. Her career took off just as Germany invaded. In the 1930s, the Great Depression was making its way to France, just as Edith Piaf was coming of age and striking out on her own. She saw protests and political heat around her but was too busy with her voice. According to No Regrets, Pioff wrote to a friend, saying, "I've decided to be serious and work hard to please my dear old Papa Lepli." She broke ties with the mafia and began focusing on her career, this time under the tutelage of lyricist Raymond Asso. She became his Pygmalion, being taught proper diction and etiquette. He wrote songs for her and helped keep her away from her troublesome friends. She began booking major venues and cabarets and recording new songs. Asso had a tight rein on Pioff's career, telling her where to sing, what to sing, and even how to spend her money. In August of 1939, he was drafted into the army. By September, Germany declared war on France. Pioff kept working. In 1940, a sign of her established fame, the playwright Jean Cocteau wrote a play, La Belle Indifferente, for her, about her, and starring her. By June, the Nazis had placed their flag over the Arc de Triomphe. According to Music and the Holocaust, she had to register with the German propaganda department and agree to have her song lyrics vetted, but the Nazis liked her and she was encouraged in her work. The French accused her of siding with Nazi Germany. The fact that Edith Piaf continued working throughout World War II was enough to make French countrymen and women give her some serious side-eye. German soldiers attended her performances, and she was popular with Nazi leaders. While Nazi censors vetted her songs and would not play those written by Jewish lyricists, some fell through the cracks. For example, according to Music and the Holocaust, her song, Il n'est pas distingué, it is not distinguished, has the lyrics, "I can't stand Hitler." The Nazis seemed to forget that we were the people who slammed them in the First World War. Pioff protected two Jewish musicians, Michel Elmer and Norbert Glansberg, whom she helped to go into hiding. She inadvertently assisted the resistance movement by living in a home where many Jewish men and women hid. She went on a tour that ultimately was a covert undercover operation. Her photos with the French prisoners in the audience was then used to make 120 fake passports that many of them used to escape. Per music in the Holocaust, she continued to sing at prison camps at her own initiative even when resistance activities were not being carried out, and it will never be quite clear whose morale, the Nazis or the prisoners, she was hoping to boost. A car crash led her to addiction. Edith Piaf was plagued with arthritis, which began around the time of Marcel Cerdan's death. So by 1951, when she was in a car accident, she was already on a lot of prescription medication. She was driving with her new boyfriend, André Pousse, when he missed a turn, and they crashed with her breaking an arm and 2 ribs. She was prescribed morphine. According to No Regrets, Pioff wrote, "I was addicted and I was earning millions. The drug dealers knew this and took advantage." She recalls seeing people entering her apartment and robbing her but being too weak to do anything about it. According to Everyday Health, by the mid-1950s, after several car accidents, her painkiller use had become an addiction. In addition to morphine, she drank more heavily. Always a drinker, as was the life of most nightclub entertainers, she was certainly drinking now as a means to kill the pain, both physical and emotional. She never recovered from the death of Cerdan. In fact, she hosted seances and kept whatever belongings she had of his as relics. Edith Piaf and her first husband divorce. Despite the litany of lovers, Edith Piaf had not yet married. In fact, when she met her soon-to-be husband Jacques Pills, she was in the midst of a relationship with famous French cyclist, Louis Girardin, whom she claimed she wanted to marry. According to The Independent, she ended things by sending him a letter that read, "When you receive this letter I will be married." Her relationship and marriage to Pills was abrupt. Pills, who was also a singer, wanted to work with Pioff on a song. They began rehearsing every day and, soon after, announced a tour together in their engagement. Pioff's lifestyle was anything but stable. According to No Regrets, Pills' sister, Simone, took care of Pioff. She retrieved cortisone for Pioff when she was in pain, stayed up with her when she couldn't sleep, made sure she was up by 1 p.m., and witnessed the numerous folks around Pioff borrowing money, flattering her, drinking with her, and endlessly partying. Pioff was in and out of rehab for morphine and alcohol. She was also in and out of the hospital for health problems. After the couple could no longer tour, being together became difficult, and Pioff did not like to be alone. She began an affair with lyricist Jean Dredjak and traveled all of the U.S. with him. Upon her return to Paris, after traveling the U.S., Mexico and South America for a year, she and Pills divorced in 1956. Edith Piaf died of liver failure. Through her addiction and ailments, Edith Piaf continued to sing and attract crowds in her 40s. Her lover and fellow singer, Georges Moustaki, said of her when she was on stage, "She could breathe there, she was at home, she constructed her own world. If she felt ill in the wings, she felt better once she went on, via No Regrets." In 1959, she rushed off stage on 2 occasions, coughing up blood. A doctor said that she had a hemorrhaging ulcer from all the medicine she had been taking. She was hospitalized and lost a significant amount of weight. After that, she was in and out of hospitals but continued to perform publicly when she found the strength. During a recovery period in which she could not even sing, lyricist Michel Vauquer and the composer Charles Dumont played for her Je ne regrette rien, which became one of her most famous songs. Although not her final recording, it certainly felt like a song that summed up her life that was coming to an end. Right before her death, and her decline in health was obvious, she married a young singer, Théophanies Lamoukas, who was 20 years younger than her. Dumont said of this union, "She wanted to do something mythic, to show right at the end, she embraced love, youth, beauty. It was hugely romantic." Pioff died of liver failure on October 10, 1963. She was 47 years old. Her melancholic legacy lives on. Edith Piaf continues to be a national monument to all things French. In Paris, there is a street named after her, a bronze statue of her, and an entire museum dedicated to her life. According to Newsweek, the singer was not always glorified. During her life she was often vilified for her sexual liaisons, for breaking up marriages and drug abuse. For a long time after her death, her music was considered old hat. Somewhere in the 2000s, there was a renewed interest, and the singer's life and music became a celebrated national treasure again. In 2007, the biopic La Môme, La Vie en Rose, starring Marion Cotillard, certainly helped to bring the singer's legacy back into the world's imagination. Cotillard won an Oscar for her portrayal of Pioff. In 2015, on the 100th anniversary of her birth, the National Library of France held an exhibit in her honor. According to The Guardian, the library has amassed more than 400 exhibits including photographs, song sheets, handwritten notes, posters, some of them never before seen by the public, as well as film excerpts and musical recordings aimed at reminding visitors of the role the cabaret singer played in French cultural history and collective memory. Preserving her tragic and yet triumphant legacy has become an important venture to preserve French culture. Dear viewers, do not forget to subscribe, like and comment for the development of our channel. Stay with love.